Chris Johnston joins us on the show this morning. CJ, happy Friday, my man. And people obviously in Edmonton here very excited for the next round. We'll see what happens with the Jets and the Dallas Stars after last night's game. But boy, the Edmonton Oilers dispatching the Golden Knights in 5. You could argue that was a little bit of a closer series than a five-game finish, but they've won 8 of their last 9 here. The only one they didn't win, Draisaitl put the game winner into his own net with 0.4 seconds left. This team is on a roll right now, aren't they?
Yeah, and they couldn't come at a better time. Let's face it. It felt like a lot of this season it's like you got the stick, you're poking it. It's like, wake up, guys. What's going on over here? But, credit to the Oilers. They did what they had to do. And I do think, I'm sure you're having the sort of rest versus rust debate that happens when your team advances in 5. I think this is beneficial for where they're at. Just, they played right to Game 7 last year, almost all the way to July 1st. Getting a little extra rest and a reset over the weekend, a chance to work on some things at practice and heal bumps and bruises. I think that'll go a long way because, quite honestly, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Jets Star series goes 7. I think Winnipeg has played probably a little better in that series than it looked like when they're down 3-1 and now ultimately 3-2. And so, this is playing in Edmonton's hands. They know what it takes. They're getting a little healthier by the day here, and they're watching the other guys beat up on each other until they get a chance to face them in Game 1.
Yeah, I would agree, and we'll continue to dive into this whole rest versus rust and how long is too long type of thing for the Edmonton Oilers. But this is much more preferred after having to grind back in the second round
team and
against the Canucks last year. It's just I think it's a much better spot for them to be in to get some rest at this point. Lots of impressive things about the Oilers through the first 2 rounds. CJ, what impresses you or even maybe surprises you the most about this team as they await for another opponent?
Well, the Stuart Skinner storyline, I heard you guys nodding to it there. Didn't see that one coming. And good for him, especially with the way that game ended where he sort of slid out of position and Draisaitl knocks it in the net. And, I think there was probably a few days where everyone was wondering what you were going to get. And he's made a pretty strong statement, taking back the crease. I think that for me, what I'm looking at with the Oilers this year compared to some other years, look, that McDavid's still producing like crazy, but it feels like they've gotten a little bit more down the lineup. I don't know if it's more in terms of actual total goals, but maybe getting some big goals to win a game. Having Kasperi Kapanen come into the lineup and score an overtime winner is an easy one I can reference from the end of that Vegas series. But I know there was a big Connor Brown game during the playoffs. I think that goes a long way because I do think it's a matter of time. The more games you let Draisaitl and McDavid play, the more likely they're going to put up 3-point nights on whichever opponent they're going to face. So, it feels like that somehow, some way, because I don't have a clear explanation for how this has happened. They've arrived here and they've become a pretty good team, which obviously is what it takes to go through the Stanley Cup grind. So, they've hit on something with that D. They jumped on the Golden Knights, which I think is a positive when they had a chance to kind of knock them out. They did. They didn't let them hang around in that series. And so, everything right now is looking very favorable from the Oilers standpoint.
Yeah. And Chris, just to add to that, we were talking, favorites when we do get to conference final time and all these other series are kind of figured out, but they're all heavyweights. No real Cinderella stories, but for the Oilers and overcoming, Ekholm, goaltending, Klingberg's hips looking great. There's so many things, and you add on to that the will of this team. If it is Panthers or if it is Dallas or whomever, I think the will and overcoming all those things, you have to give the nod to Edmonton based on, kind of talent aside and matchups, all that other stuff. You can't script and write a better story than what the Oilers, especially dating back to last year's run.
Yeah, it's kind of the potential for a crazy Final Four because if Florida goes on and let's say Dallas wins just for the sake of this conversation, in Dallas, you've got a team that's reached a conference final a couple times here in recent years. Obviously, Edmonton got all the way to Game 7 of the final. Florida has been to 2 straight finals and 1 last year. And Carolina, on the Eastern side, has been a team that's won multiple playoff years going back 7 years. I think this is their 3rd conference final in those 7 years. So it's a lot of teams that have been there. And in this case, there'd be one that got the job done last year in the Panthers. But it's just like, who do you pick among that group? I have a hard time saying that there's a favorite. I would certainly favor Edmonton over Carolina at this point, if those are the two teams that are definitely through. So, I think it's a bit of a toss-up, and that's where I do believe the rest is important, the chance to just be ready for that next round. And I just think Edmonton's a team on a mission, honestly. That this is they know exactly what's ahead of them. I don't think they're in any danger of taking anything for granted or letting their foot off the pedal. I mean, I just think they're going to be, in a great spot once the third round begins.
I think it's kind of the message McDavid sent in his post-series availability. Like, just all business. Like,
for winning in Vegas and have that type of demeanor.
That was a guy who's only halfway done what he wants to accomplish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I don't know how that played locally, but when I saw that, it's just like...
Oh, I loved it too, man. I thought it was great. Like,
because they're at the point, obviously, it's great to win a series. Like, every series you win, it's important. I'm not diminishing sort of... You do want to savor the moment to some degree, but, for Connor McDavid, it's all about lifting the Stanley Cup. Like, there's nothing else this guy wants to do. Like, there's almost nothing for him left to do in the sport. The only other thing on the back of his mind somewhere will be winning a gold medal at the Olympics next year, come February. But, in the here and now, this is, I just think he pours his entire life into that. And he came so close. I think he's going to be hard to be denied. I mean, this is an old reference, but I remember the Crosby year they lost in 2008. It was first trip to the final in 2009. There just was no way that Penguins team was going to lose, even though they got the same team again. I mean, maybe the same circumstance plays out. We get another Edmonton, Florida final. I'm sure no one will complain about travel if that happens. And then, the Oilers are trying to do what the Penguins did all those years ago against Detroit. I mean, wouldn't surprise me at all if that's how it kind of turns out.
All right, let's hit on a couple of other series here. You did mention you wouldn't be surprised if Winnipeg is able to force a Game 7. They have definitely looked like a different team, or the results, at least, let's say, have been different at home than on the road. But I thought they just played so well last night. I said this exact same thing to Eric this morning. I said, I won't be surprised either way. Like, if Winnipeg goes down there and plays the way they did last night, they could certainly force a Game 7 at home. And then at that point, you kind of throw everything out the window. But Dallas is a very, very good team. Is it going to have to be? I mean, does it kind of just come down to Hellebuck in Game 6?
It's a huge part of it. And I know, like, the Jets probably hate that the focus is on that, but to me, they've outplayed the Stars in 5-on-5 at this series. They've lost the special teams battle in a couple games, which is Hellebuck related. And then Hellebuck's, had a couple off nights. I mean, I think the Jets are full value to push the Stars to 7. It's hard to know what you're going to get from Hellebuck. I mean, I don't know if this road, the fact they just seem to lose every road game, obviously got pulled in the 2 road games in the St. Louis series. Like, I don't know if that's just coincidence or if it's in his mind. I mean, it's hard to know because it's still relatively few games to say it's a true trend. But, I think if they go back, I mean, there's very few places you'd want more to play a Game 7 than I think in Winnipeg. I mean, just the way that crowd is, it's such a unique environment, smaller arena, very loud. I'd love the Jets' chances if they could get it back to Game 7. So to me, the series almost hinges on what happens Game 6. Can the Stars bounce back? Man, they didn't get a lot going offensively last night. And, the Jets did what you have to do to win in the playoff time. So, it's been like kind of a sneaky good series. It's just been weird with some of the games where Hellebuck has been off his game. And, I think of, I guess it would have been Game 4. He lets in that, like Granlund's coming in like 1-on-3, just shoots a puck through him. Like, it's just not what you expect to see from someone who's, going to be up for the Hart Trophy this year, let alone, likely winning another Vezina. So, other than the unknowns with the Hellebuck factor, I think just from a pure matchup standpoint, the Jets, have every chance to go and still, find their way through that series.
NHL insider Chris Johnston of The Athletic and TSN with us. Before your hits with us on Friday, Chris, we do a segment called the Crack Pack, in which we open sports cards from Wayne's Cards here in town. We did pull 2 very interesting cards this morning in a William Nylander and Austin Matthews, and it was the Determination subset, which we found rather interesting. This series tonight, take us back to the other night in Toronto as well, because we didn't get a chance to speak with you there. The jersey on the ice. I know you had a piece, the Shannon plan facing its last stand, Core 4, all this stuff. Like, take us back to the other night and then let's set up tonight, because I find it very intriguing that if they do go down to Florida and pull it off, returning home would be kind of an odd
the crowd turned on you last game,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what I was saying, having Game 7 at home in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly, obviously at this point, the Leafs want to have a game 7 at home. Even their fans want that, but I think it'd be a nervous building. It wouldn't be a confident building just because of what we've seen. I mean, this is one of the truly weird teams, eras, groups of players that I can imagine. I mean, they've done so much winning in the regular season, so little winning in the playoffs. But it's not like they get swept, right? Like they get it to game 7 and lose 2-1 in overtime, which is what happened last year. Like they put themselves on the precipice of success and can't seem to just knock down the door. And so I have to think on some level there's a mental block there for the top guys. And so when you're talking about the other night, I mean, you get a game 5 at home, it's 2-2 against the defending champs. The Leafs to that point had looked good the series. I mean, they were full value for the 2 wins they had. The game 3 they lost was really a toss-up. They easily could have won that game. Game 4, they were outplayed. But, they probably had the edge starting game 5 of the series. They were on home ice. They had every reason to be confident, and they just laid an egg. Like there was nothing there. And that's where you see, I mean, look, they're down 6-0 until the final minute of the game. I think fans can accept the loss. Fans can understand the playoffs. I mean, look, if you were a Vegas fan the other night, that was a pretty close 1-0 game, right? Like your team did everything it could. You're disappointed the season's over, but I don't think Vegas fans leave the building ready to throw their jersey on the ice. When you lose 6-0 in the playoffs on this stage, when you have the history this team has, I mean, it snowballs. And so, there's a lot of doubt that specifically, really, we're talking about Matthews and Marner now, who play on their top line. I mean, that's really what this is. Like you pull the William Nylander out of your pack. He's at 0.53 goals per game in the playoffs the last 4 years. Like he's scored a ton of big playoff goals for this team. I think if anything, like if we had him on the show right now and he's being totally honest, he'd be like, look at my numbers. And then we could even go situationally, like games where they faced elimination. Like he's constantly the guy that opens the scoring. There was a game in the Florida series 2 years ago. He tied it late and sent it to overtime. They lose in overtime and are eliminated. Like he's doing everything. And I think he's just looking to his right and left going like, okay, if one of you guys score one more goal in these games, like we would already have had a long playoff run. It's a long-winded way of saying, I don't know what to expect tonight. I'm down here in Fort Lauderdale now. They are under a unique amount of fire because there's just no mystery here. I mean, this would be the end of that exact grouping of players if the Leafs were to be eliminated. I'm pretty confident Mitch Marner intends to go to July 1st, at least as of now, and test free agency. There's a decision to be made on John Tavares just because of his age. And maybe if you're changing things, it's not even a personal thing against Tavares, who had a great year this year at age 34, but you might be looking to go in a different direction. So, this is the last stand. This is, they've still got a chance. For everyone who's booed them, for everyone who's doubted them and written columns like the one I wrote the other day. I suppose if they win game 6 and win game 7 of the series, they can still make a statement and still render all those opinions valid, but they're certainly running short on time to do it.
CJ, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy what should be it's an all-time game one way or the other tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So have fun being there.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and enjoy your weekend, guys.
There you go. That's Chris Johnston. Absolutely outstanding stuff he's brought to the show this year once again. And
you can't even call it choking anymore.
No, it's just what it's just who they are.
It's what it is, right?
This is just what they are. You can call it choking a couple of times.
Exactly.
But this is just who they've become.
It's normality.